بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Tonight inshallah ta'ala Salat al-Isha is what time? 6 on the dot. That's the adhan or the iqama? The iqama. And the adhan is here? 5:45. Okay. Alright, inshallah we'll try to take some questions tonight. We don't have that much time. We have some time. But we'll start off with some questions bi'idhnillahi ta'ala from the brothers here if they have any, the sisters here if they have any. And if not, we'll benefit from the questions from the brothers and sisters online. First question says, Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah bless you, Akhi Mahmoud G. Questions from Initials AP from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. What do we do about multiple ahadith that say different signs of the hour will be first? There seem to be contradictions here. As a general rule is that there are no two authentic texts. Whether it's Quran and Quran, Hadith and Hadith, Hadith and Quran, Quran and Hadith. If both texts are authentic, then there's no way that they will be contradictory. Impossible. Either one of the two is abrogated, it's canceled, it was a rule, and it's no longer a rule, or there's a meaning, something specific, something's general, something is restricted, etc. When it comes to information, al-akhbar, فَلَا نَسْخَ فِيهَا, there's no abrogation of information. But abrogation only takes place pertaining to ahkam. It used to be unlawful to wear red, and the Prophet ﷺ allowed the people to wear red. As an example, it used to be haram to eat meat, and then the Prophet ﷺ allowed them to eat meat. Mathalan, as an example, that's a ruling which can be canceled out. As far as information, the Prophet told us about this: paradise, hell, the grave, the angels, the jinn, etc., etc., then those things are not abrogated. So there are no two hadiths which are authentic from the Prophet ﷺ with regards to the last day, when it will be, how it will be, and its signs, major and minor, that will contradict each other. Rather, one of the two hadiths is da'if and the other is sahih, or there isn't a proper understanding with regards to those hadiths. The first thing that will take place, the last thing that will take place, inna min akhiri, from the last things, from the first things. So the scholars of Islam for centuries, for years, they have been dealing with harmonizing between the different ahadith, which some people think and feel are contradictory. But in actuality, there are none, as long as both texts are authentic. If you have something specific, then that's a different story. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Next question comes from Initials AB from London, UK. Assalamu alaikum Mufti. As a part of a Muslim charity, I'm planning on sending 1,000 of activity packs across UK. Is it permissible to add golden ticket prizes to the packs from a fiqh point of view? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I believe we mentioned this before. What's important is, if it's free, no one is losing any money. You give someone something more than the next person, it's meant as an incentive. There's no financial loss. There's no buyer losing money, paying an extra fee, a less of a fee because of a prize on the box or the bag. Then that's a different story. With regards to a free spoon in the box, free toy in the box, that's a different discussion. If it's free, if it's sadaqah, you're free to give what you want to give, how you want to give. We have 1,000 food bags, 1,000 bags for supplies, 50 of them have an additional this, a special that. That's your own will. Wallahu alam. Next question states, comes from Mahmoud G from Atlanta, Georgia. What is a practical way to attain paradise of the 70,000 from the hadith? Strong tawakkul. The scholars of Islam, they say that hadith means the things, hum alladhina, they are those, and the Prophet says someone to mention the things that they don't do. لا يسترقون ولا يتطيرون ولا يكتبون, etc. جامع الأمر التوكل is that they have strong reliance upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in Allah. So, if you want to be from among those people, and the additional people mentioned in other ahadith, then make your tawakkul strong. And tawakkul oftentimes is like a muscle. The more you use it, the more you exercise it, the more you flex it, the stronger it becomes. So we're not promoting you or encouraging you to be reckless and not to plan and not to take your caution. But from time to time, use bare tawakkul. I want to see what happens. Look at it from an example. If you drive without GPS, you're scared of getting lost, right? I'm going to get lost. Oh man, I don't know what to do. But if the more you do it, you see that it's not that bad. And you may get lost. Now, okay, this is Greenway Place, and this is such and such street. And you get stronger with your navigation. Your intuition grows stronger. And you begin to trust and rely on your driving skills more and less on the computer. Is this not the case? So the same applies spiritually. Put your trust in Allah more. Take more risks. Do more bold things that are positive things. And you'll feel the tawakkul grow within you. And Allah knows best. Next question states, coming from initials MB from Marietta, Georgia. Assalamu alaikum. Mufti, what's your opinion on having framed pictures of sea creatures, i.e. aquarium of the bathroom, and having Quranic verses framed in the living room? As far as a sea creature should not be hung up or hanged in your house. You should not have on your walls any frame or any picture of a living being, of an actual, real living being. As far as putting the Quran in the frame on the wall, then many scholars have shunned this. And they said it should not be done. And that's because people, they put the Quranic verses on the wall and they still curse. They still argue. They still do things in front of the painting or the writing, and they desecrate it. They do things which are unbefitting of the Quran in front of the Quran being written down and hung upon the wall. And others, they say, is that the Quran was not sent down for this. The Quran was not sent down to be decorated or for it to be a means of decoration and if to be hung upon walls. This was many scholars, they say. And of course, there are different views. Other scholars may say differently. What's important is, if you feel that that's a benefit to you and it helps you identify your Islamic home and you enjoy seeing it and being reminded of it and you respect it, then that's one thing. And if you don't feel that way and it's best, you want to feel like you want to avoid it, then that's best. And Allah knows best. Question says, Assalamu alaikum. Ali A from Canton, Michigan. Hi Mufti, I sent you a Facebook message regarding books available. Sorry for being forward. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. May Allah bless you. As far as the books, then I don't sell the books on Facebook or Instagram on the website. The volunteers, they handle it for me. And everything is automated, especially during the COVID times. We don't have books, carry books. Everything is done online. So however you purchased the book or requested a book, it should be automated and you should get a response there. If you can provide a specific number, the date, something went wrong, I wouldn't mind helping you out personally, inshallah. Question comes from initials SB from Cairo, Egypt. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. A brother went to bring his wife from Canada to Egypt, but isn't sure if she can travel alone. Is it permissible? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. If it's a need, if it's a necessity, and she has no mahram to travel and to accompany her, then do it. As long as she's safe, do it. If it isn't a need, and if a mahram can accompany her, then do that. And Allah knows best. Initials HH from Burnsville, Illinois, I assume. Burnsville, doesn't say where. Please mention exactly where you're coming from, inshallah. Samir Musallam, Toronto, Canada. Based on your experience, What do you think causes brothers to be so aggressive when giving dawah? Oftentimes they're fed that aggressiveness. They're fed it. They're taught that. That's the tarbiyah. And they're taught that that's the sunnah, to be aggressive. Not saying that you can't be aggressive. Being aggressive is a part of life. Sometimes you have to be aggressive. And people who talk about being vegan or being natural or organic, eating meat makes you aggressive, eating meat makes you violent, being a vegetarian makes you peaceful and calm, and so on and so forth. We know that that's one big fat lie. And that's because when you look at quote unquote nature, the forest, the ocean, things that are natural, things, nature in itself, quote unquote, is extremely aggressive and violent. Extremely aggressive and violent. And there are many insects and bugs and birds and fish and animals that are extremely volatile. And that is nature. Let alone the fact that some of the people in history, I won't mention his name, who was considered to be one of the worst killers of history, who spilled the blood of millions supposedly, was an infamous vegetarian. And one day, they say that this man, I won't mention his name, he was sitting at the table with his generals and his war staff, his cabinet, his advisors. And many of them, they began to secretly detest him and hold feelings against him. And they thought he was crazy, thought he was losing his mind. They thought he was too weak because he didn't eat meat. So as he was eating his potatoes and his spinach, and they were eating their meat, their ham, their beef, whatever, they said to him, some of them boldly said, "Why don't you eat any meat? You're too weak eating those vegetables. Your mind is going soft," so on and so forth. You need to eat meat. So he says, "Tell me the strongest animal, the biggest, largest land mammal. What is it?" They said, "Of course, it's an elephant." He says, "An elephant doesn't eat meat." Let's talk about the other affairs of state. They were defeated. And we all know, it's a well-known established fact, is that if you go near an elephant, you try to get to an elephant calf, or a poacher tries to shoot an elephant, the elephant would do what? Would defend itself vehemently. And it doesn't eat meat. So aggression and meat, so on and so forth, that's a long argument in itself. What's important is the people, they're taught and they're educated that total aggressiveness, being absolutely aggressive all the time, that's the sunnah. It's to be harsh and mean and aggressive and direct. And that's wrong. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Inna Allah rafiqun yuhibbu rifqa wa yu'ti alayhi ma la yu'ti ala al-unf." Listen to this beautiful hadith. 3 things mentioned. Inna Allah rafiqun. Allah has the description of ar-rifq, gentleness. Yuhibbu rifqa. And not only is he gentle, but he loves it from his servants. Last but not least, and he allows things to happen and to take place through gentleness that would never ever take place through violence. 3 points. Allah is gentle. Allah loves gentleness, and Allah allows things to happen through gentleness. So just like there's aggression, there's also gentleness. Just as there's harshness, there's softness. So these people, many of these youth or these older brothers, they've been miseducated. They've been miseducated, unfortunately. Another reason, and perhaps it's the last thing I'll say, why people are so aggressive when it comes to dawah, things like this. I guess it gives people a position of power, a position of advantage and privilege. I know more than you, so therefore I'm going to look down upon you. I have more knowledge than you, I'm more advanced than you Islamically, so therefore I'm going to misuse you and mistreat you like I was misused and I was mistreated. So there are different reasons behind that. And the best dawah, the only dawah that's acceptable to Allah is the dawah towards Darul Salam. And Darul Salam has only one key, and that's the key of Islam. Inna dina inda Allah al-Islam. Kullu ummati mu'afa illa al-mujahideen. Man ata'ani dakhala al-jannah. Ayah, ba'da hadith, ba'da ayah, ba'da miftah al-jannah wahid. There's only one way to paradise, and that's the sirat of Allah, the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which there is gentleness and other than gentleness. Wallahu alam. Next question states, Question from H. Burnsville, Minnesota. I work at Amazon and there are boxes showing Christmas symbols. Do I carry the boxes? Sometimes I wrap huge stacks of boxes and they have Christmas boxes on them. What do I do? Fear Allah the best way you can. You work at Amazon, you're in the factory, there are all types of haram things around you, there are haram elements that surround you. Who knows what's in all of those boxes? Many things you do know what are in those boxes. Fear Allah the best way you can. You don't celebrate Christmas, you don't believe in Christmas, it's not a holy sacred date to you, you work as an employee, you have to ship the box that has Santa on it or an elf on it or whatever, reindeer. What can you do? And if you don't work at Amazon, you have to work somewhere else in which you have to shave your beard, or you can't make salah, or shake a woman's hand, etc., etc. The halal jobs are limited, and oftentimes there are haram elements within halal jobs. And this is something that the Muslims need to work on and fix. We have enough numbers to make our own businesses. We have enough numbers to make our own halal institutions to the best of our ability. But most of us are pleased with working in a haram element, working for haram people, working doing haram things. So one of the most important things, one of the most important ingredients of a successful Islamic community, of a successful, thriving Muslim society is money. And it is business and economics. That's not on the side. It's not a footnote. It's not on the back burner. The money, where it comes from, how it's spent, how it's produced, how it circulates, that is from the most important things of a successful Islamic community. And if we don't have our own jobs, our own centers, our own businesses, then how do we expect the people not to shave their beards? How do we expect the people not to deal with swine and alcohol and lottery tickets? How do we expect the people to come to the Masjid? How do we expect the people to come to Jumu'ah? How do we expect the people to stay away from riba? How do we expect the people not to listen to this, etc., etc.? If we have no alternatives ourselves. This is very, very, very sad situation in the United States and other parts of the world in which we look at finance as something which is, on the side. And it's supposed to be the core. The core of the community is how the bills are going to get paid. The lights, the electricity, water, the carpet, the imam's salary, the Quran teacher's salary, money for orphans, money for widows, money for sadaqah. How are we going to have our own if we don't protect and feed our own? This is very unfortunate. May Allah Azza wa Jalla help us in that. I mean, and of course, if you can avoid the Christmas boxes, then that's obviously the best thing to do and the obligatory thing to do, if you can. And Allah knows best. Next question comes from initials AP from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Are women less than men in Islam? It depends on what you mean by that. What do you mean by less? It's very important for us to understand what's meant by less. That they are less humans, less of a human being. They get less rewards, less in the sight of Allah. What do you mean by less? Can a woman be any man like a man? What do you mean by less? That's a vague term. It's an extremely vague term. Wallahu alam. Next question states, initials Ali A from Canton, Michigan. Is a person's ability to recite letters properly causes them to make the letter sound like another letter, and perhaps you mean improperly, which in turns is like to change the meaning? Is my prayer valid? If there's no way that you can fix it and learn it and practice it, then recite the best way you can, inshallah ta'ala. Anwar Ali from London. Assalamu alaikum. Advice on increasing and following the truth when it becomes clear to you and improving spiritual reflexes. Take risks. The truth is clear, but my mother's going to get angry. The truth is clear, but my children will get mad. The truth is clear, but my wife said she'll leave me if I do this. You have to take risks. Like we said, the muscle only grows and flourishes when it's flexed. The more iron you pump, bigger your muscles get. So you have to practice courage. You ask Allah for it. You make dua, Allahumma arina al-haqqa haqqan warzuqna ittiba'ahu. But then you have to physically take the risk of following the truth, even though it comes with risks, harms, and dangers. The more you practice, إِنَّمَا الْعِلْمُ بِالتَّعَلُّمِ إِنَّمَا الْحِلْمُ بِالتَّعَلُّمِ. It comes from practicing. The Prophet ﷺ, he says, وَمَنْ يَتَصَبَّرْ يُصَبِّرْهُ اللَّهُ. Whoever attempts patience, Allah will give him patience. So the patience that is given, a blessing. Allah makes the person brave and courageous, but it also comes from physical attempt and physical effort. Okay? Wallahu alam. Next question states, Assalamu alaikum Shaykhana, what do you think about the dictionary Mu'jam Lugha? You gotta mention the initials. Jazakallah khairan. AS from London, UK. Assalamu alaikum. I have heard a hadith about people who transgress the sacred limits of Allah when they're alone, and their deeds will not be accepted. Is this authentic? There are a hadith regarding those who violate Allah's sacred laws when they're by themselves, and they make Allah ahwan al-nadhirina, the least of those who look at them, and they do things in front of the people, for sure. As far as their deeds not being accepted, I don't know about that. Tayyib. SM from Hillard, Ohio. What do you do with doubts of food being halal? Should we rely on the principle all of it is halal until proven haram, or avoid the haram when you can? It depends on the situation. If you're in a land, a place, in which slaughtering the animal is the default, you stick with the default until proven otherwise. If you're in a land and where hitting the animal upside the head is the default, then the meat is haram until proven lawful. Until proven lawful. And the same applies to alcohol and swine, so on and so forth. I know for sure this person cooks with pork all the time, versus maybe they cooked with pork. Wallahu alam. Question comes from Abdurrahim from Felton, Delaware. Assalamu alaikum, Mufti. How should a man go about looking for a wife? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ask Allah, first and foremost. Secondly, your friends, your local masjid, your local imam. And then, of course, there are other avenues as well, online and things like this. Wallahu alam. BA from Barcelona, Spain. What view of the scholars regarding the concept of taking the good and leaving the evil? It's well known. But before we go that far, the scholars themselves who made these principles and laid down these principles, they themselves were flawed. They were humans. كُلٌّ يُؤْخَذُ مِنْ قَوْلِهِ وَيُتْرَكُ إِلَّا صَاحِبُ هَذَا الْقَبْرِ. As Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala said, everyone's statement is taken and not taken from time to time, except for the one in this grave, the one in this tomb. The Prophet ﷺ said that in Medina. كُلٌّ يُؤْخَذُ مِنْ قَوْلِهِ وَيُتْرَكُ. Everyone's statement is liable to be right or wrong. That's what Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala said. Alright? So therefore, every human being is going to make a mistake, an error. Or if it's not a mistake or an error, every human being is going to have a time or a place in which they don't know something. As the famous Arab idiom states, إِنَّ لِكُلِّ جَوَادٍ كَبْوَةٍ بَلْ كَبَوَاتٍ. It says every thoroughbred racehorse misses a gallop. Rather, several gallops. And it's a thoroughbred Arabian racehorse. It's going to tire. It's going to miss a gallop. It's not going to win every single race every single time. It's going to get sick. It's going to get ill. The best horse. So before you get into the principle, I take from the good of this scholar and I leave off his mistakes. I take from the benefit. You have to understand that those who say this person made a mistake, they themselves have made mistakes or will make mistakes. Or at worst, at best, they're flawed. There's limits. All right? So you have to understand that principle. At the end of the day, taking from someone's good and leaving off the bad, it depends on the speaker, on the sheikh. Someone who's on the sunnah, who has knowledge, who has inspirational talks, who calls the people to good, versus someone who is not upon the sunnah. Someone who doesn't have the proper knowledge. Someone who speaks upon ignorance. Someone who's very sloppy. And it depends on what you're taking from that person. Inspirational speech versus formal classes. It depends on how much knowledge you have. A person says, I've studied in Mauritania for 5 years. I've memorized the whole Quran. I can recite it backwards. Now I want to learn another qira'ah from another teacher. And this teacher has some stuff with him, some issues. That's not the same as a person who doesn't know the proper tajweed, who hasn't memorized Juz Amma. So it depends. There's a difference with regards to that. Wallahu alam. Next question states, Initials AK from Reading, UK. Assalamu alaikum Mufti. When are you next coming to UK? You're always welcome to come to Reading. You've inspired me in many ways. May Allah bless you. Ameen. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah reward you well for your good speech. And may Allah make us better. I would love to come back to the UK. Allahu Alam, is there's going to be after COVID. May Allah protect us. Hopefully, inshallah, when the gates open up and it's not forcible vaccines to travel, then perhaps we'll come back to the UK. As far as if you can't fly unless you get a vaccine, it's going to be rough. May Allah help us. Ameen. Masjid Taqwa is located in Bedford and Fulton. Exact address? 1184 Fulton Street. 1266 Bedford. Khilaf. طيب. السلام عليكم جزاك الله خيرا على الدعوة وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله ولك كذلك آمين. Questions from Nuruddin, Birmingham, UK. طيب. Is there a difference between the aura of a man in salah and outside of the salah? وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. هدانا الله وإياكم. نعم. إلا العورة على مراتب. هناك عورة يجب سترها في الصلاة وخارج الصلاة، وهناك عورة يستحب سترها في الصلاة خاصة بخلاف خارج الصلاة. فهناك نعم ولا. مثلا الكتفين، هذا على قول بعض أهل العلم يجب ستر إحدى الكتفين في الصلاة. على قول بعض العلماء يجب ستر إحدى الكتفين، وبعضهم يقولون الكتفين معا على حسب القدرة والاستطاعة. ومن أهل العلم ولعل جمهورهم يقولون هذا من المستحب. فهناك يعني خذوا زينتكم عند كل مسجد. والنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول إن كان الإزار واسعا إن كانوا ضيقا، وهكذا قال لجابر رضي الله تعالى عنه ما السر يا جابر، فحدثه وسأله عن الإزار في حال ضيقه وفي حال اتساعه، فاتزر به فالتحف به، فعلى حسب الاستطاعة والله أعلم. Next question says, initials AN from Birmingham. Birmingham where? Alabama, UK. Several Birminghams. Perhaps UK. Difference of Isha and Fajr Salat timing. It's based off of the calculation. The Fajr specifically. It's based off the calculation. When does Fajr come, when does it come in? Nautical. When does Asr go out? The ulama, they differ over these things with regards to the Hadith pertaining to the twilight, the stars, the shadow, sundial, and of course the modern calculations will be based off of the ancient calculations. SM from Hillard, Ohio, regarding my question on food being halal, what about non-halal food like tomato sauce, cheeses, etc.? Say Bismillah and eat it, inshallah. Ketchup and the cheese, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Question comes from Pronto from Florida. You gotta mention your initials, your name. RM, the Netherlands. Sorry for not mentioning my initials the first time asking a question. Where are you coming from in the Netherlands? Jazakallahu khairan. Initials A in Birmingham. SS from Florida. Nuruddin, Birmingham, UK. May Allah guide you, Sensei. What would you advise with taking wives from different origins? You gotta have courage, ya akhi. May Allah give you courage. Assalamu alaikum. AM from the UK. Is tajweed compulsory when one is memorizing the Quran? Learn the tajweed, bi'idhnillah. Basic, simple, and easy. Insha'Allah ta'ala. There's no reason why you shouldn't. Question Hamza Hassan from New York. Where you coming from in New York? Is it haram to keep a turtle as a pet? AN from Birmingham. Tayyib. Questions AN Birmingham. Where you come from? The UK? Says, Wallahi, you're my favorite speaker and you have inspired me so much. May Allah bless you, Shaykh. May Allah reward you for your good intentions. May Allah give you that which is best, that which is better than me. Ameen. AM from London, UK. Would you ever consider doing a Hajj or Umrah tour? Inshallah ta'ala. And this was AE from Germany. Please mention where you're coming from in Germany. And this was ZS from New Jersey. طيب الساعة كم؟ طيب. And this was AA Ammar Abdul Samad from Ottawa, Canada. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. How does a Muslim working in the field of political lobbying, advocacy, and government relations on behalf of the Muslim community stay true? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Barakallahu fiqh, akhi Ammar. It's a difficult question. And it's a difficult situation. Any situation can be challenging, can be difficult. Staying true to your values, giving dawah. It's difficult to stay true. If I water down my speech, I get more followers. If I water down my content, more people will like me, support me, donate to me. If I become happy-go-lucky speaker of Islam, a LOL sheikh, more people will accept me and invite me. It's hard. It's difficult. And thabat, firmness, is only from Allah. يُثَبِّتُ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. Allah makes the people firm. Allah is the only one who gives firmness. But it's hard. So if it's hard to remain firm and to remain true in dawah, then what about remaining firm in a field that the nature of it is against firmness upon Islam? Politics, advocacy, lobbying, nations, governments. The nature of the thing itself is oftentimes against religion, oftentimes against Islam, oftentimes against sincerity. Do you understand this? Sincerity, al-ikhlas, and politics. Do they match? Do they mix? The nature of a politician, does it go with being sincere? Or is it not a major part of politics having two faces, three faces, two tongues, two masks? All right? So that's a mushkil, that's a problem. However, the Quran and Sunnah have praised just, righteous, honest, brave leaders. So we don't go to the extreme. Allah talks about the Khalifa being made upon earth, Dawood alayhi salatu wasalam. Allah talks about making us, huwa alladhi ja'alakum khala'ifa. He's made you successors in the land. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, al-qudatu thalathatun. Judges are of three types. One judge will be in paradise and the other two will be in hell. So the Quran and Sunnah speak about the virtue of a just leader. So we don't go to the extreme saying that it's impossible to be an honest leader. And it's impossible to be a just leader. And it's impossible to have proper Islamic etiquettes. We don't go to that extreme as many people do. So far, unfortunately, they'll say there's no politics in Islam. Or some of them will say that's not a religious issue, that's a political issue. That's ignorance. Politics are a part of the deen. There's no question about that. Whoever has read the Quran and Sunnah. However, the difficulty of remaining true in any field of politics, let alone Western politics, non-Muslim politics, the slope is even more slippery. It's even more difficult. So with that being said, my first piece of advice to you is to make sure that you have clear-cut purpose. Clear-cut purpose. I'm not here just to hang around. I'm not here because I like political science. I'm not here because I'm here for a specific purpose. And that is to bring justice to Islam. Justice to the Muslims. To make the situation of the Muslims better. Secondly, is make sure that you arm yourself with an abundance of knowledge, both Islamically and politically. Thirdly, is allow your actions to speak louder than your words. The people will know what you stand for as long as you practice it. The people will know what to approach you with, what to say to you, based off of how you behave. And there are many tricks and games and acts of treachery and gossip that they won't even approach you with because they already know your character. As far as if your character is hidden, if your behavior isn't known, you hide it, it's tucked away, then many people will come to you with many, many tests. And it's a big possibility that you'll fall for them. Just think about a leader. Just think about this. All right? We talk about politics. We talk about the ancient world. We talk about some of the forefathers of the modern society and of culture and etiquette and manner. One of the greatest historical figures of the ancient world was a man whose name was Confucius. He was pivotal to the society of China and the other nations that branched off from China. And Confucius was famous for his laws and his do's and his don'ts. And he said once, when he was asked about government, he was asked about politics, and he was asked about leading men. He says, the leader hath nothing to do more than to allow what he tolerates to be known. That's it. He doesn't have to talk. He doesn't have to punish. You have to reward. Make it clear what you stand for. If I catch anyone smuggling drugs in this country, this is going to happen to them. Anyone, bribery, corruption in the armed forces, they'll automatically lose their job. They're going to be fined. They're going to be locked up. Not, oh, he's such and such cousin. Bribery is bad. Corruption is bad. But you don't take a stance against it. All you have to do being a leader is to make your policy known. I don't stand for this. Don't come to me talking about people. Conniving, backbiting. That's not my style. No, thank you. He's rude. He's blunt. You think you're better than everybody else. You can't talk gossip at the workplace? Nope. You can say whatever you want to say about me. And think whatever you want to think about me. When you see me at the soda machine, you can say hello. You can talk about sports. But can't come backbiting someone else to me. Because I don't stand for that. Someone in the beginning is going to get mad at you. Quote unquote, pissed off at you. They're going to say bad things about you. You think you're better than everyone else. But eventually they'll know he doesn't stand for that. And half of the fitna that they want to bring to you, they won't even what? They won't even bring it to you. And the other half, that's when you need to be firm. So that's my advice, is to make your policy known. My last piece of advice is to be the sharpest professional you can possibly be. Study the law well. Study politics well. Study history well. And that the people, they may not like you for your religion. Even some Muslims. They may think you're too strict. Or you're too much of a Wahhabi. Or you think you're better than everybody else. Or you're extreme. But when it comes to the job, when it comes to politics, the policies, he's what? As sharp as a thumbtack. He's the best person for the job. Even though I don't like his religion. Even though I hate the fact that he's a practicing Muslim. But there's no one better to represent us, to speak, to talk than him. Inna Allah kataba al-ihsana ala kulli shay. Allah has prescribed perfection upon all things. And the Prophet ﷺ says, وَلْيُحِدَّ أَحَدُكُمْ شَفْرَتَهُ. Keep your knives and keep your blades sharp. Stay sharp. So just think about that now. If you work with non-Muslims, they may not like you because you're a Muslim. They may hate your religion, but they know you're the best at what you do. And there's nothing they can say. He's the best man we got. You sent us this Muslim guy with his beard? Yep. It's the best lawyer. You play sports. You guys, you're friends with this guy. He believes your guys are going to hell. Yep, because he's the best three-point shooter. He's the best person on the team. He practices harder, more than all of us combined. Outdo the other people that don't share your religious values. And that is a major, major means of giving dawah. Just by being sharp. It can come to how you dress. You present yourself well. You're dapper. You dress very nice. And they say, wow, well, I don't like the Muslims, or I don't know this about the Muslims, but the Muslims definitely know how to dress. The Muslims know how to do this. Be sharp. And whatever field that you're in, and these things, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, will be means of inhibiting the people from trying to swallow you into their black holes of lobbying, politics, advocacy that's going to be full of lies, slander, cheating, trickery, chicanery, and the list goes on. And Allah Azza wa Jalla is the one who gives all success. طيب, I don't know how much time we have left for the adhan. It's time now. Khair, inshallah. We'll stop for the adhan, and perhaps we'll finish after the adhan, inshallah. 5:45. $5.50. طيب, I just don't want to be stopped when it comes. All right, we'll take one more question before the adhan. Question says, Assalamu alaikum Mufti, initials AK from Reading, UK. Which scholar has inspired you in the deen? Too many to count. Too many to count. If I had to mention one off the top of my head, there's no doubt Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah and his people Ibn al-Qayyim, like no other. Initials AM from Birmingham, UK. Ruling on working jobs like Deliveroo or Uber Eats. In the UK, it's hard to find other jobs while you're still looking for a better alternative. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Like we mentioned, like we explained previously, take the best that you can, the least haram that you can, until you find something that's absolutely pure, if that exists. Says to their principles while simultaneously building necessary bridges with other faith-based communities for greater goal. What is the best method to tread this fine line or slippery slope, as some would call it? Like we said, and you just make sure that you're a professional. I'm a professional. I'm not here to talk about religion. I'm not here to talk about Islam, Christianity, Judaism. We're here to talk about making this community better. We're here to raise money. We're here for a general cause that all men of all faiths and religions can benefit from. If you ask me about my religion, I'll be more than willing to tell you about my religion. Why don't I do this? Why don't I eat this? Why do I have to dress like this? But we're not here to talk about religion right now. We're here to discuss this policy. We're here to help out these orphans. And that in itself is dawah to Islam. That's dawah. That in itself is a major, major type of dawah. And that's because you show them that you're willing to work for a greater good and a greater cause, even though they don't share your religious ideals. And in history, this was something which was unknown. It wasn't known. The different wars and the conquests, the different polytheists or Christian crusaders, when they took over a land, what did they do? Did they allow freedom of religion? Did they allow the people to keep their faith as long as they paid their tribute? No, they didn't. The Inquisition. People that were Catholics, people that did claim they were Christians, they still killed them and accused them of being heretics and not having the necessary devotion to their religion, let alone people that were Mohammedans or Jews. Read history. Read just the one, you read about the Spanish Inquisition. Read about what took place and how many people lost their lives that shared the same faith. Read about the wars between the Eastern Roman Empire and the Western Roman Empire, the Latins and the Byzantines, the Greeks. Read about the sacking of Constantinople before the Turkish Muslims came. Read about that. Read how religious tolerance was something which was unknown among many people who claim it today. And a very interesting fact, one of the first non-Muslim people to establish freedom of religion and religious tolerance, as long as affairs of state were in order, was one of the most hated men in history. And of course it was Genghis Khan and his sons and his grandsons, Ogadai and Kublai, way before Europe and France and Germany and Italy and England even knew about freedom and tolerance of religion. So you have to read about the history to expose the hypocrisy of these people. They claim that you're an extremist Muslim. Everyone's going to hell, such and such and such and such. And they themselves, 50, 100, 200, 300, 400 years ago, were what? The champions of that. So you stick to professionalism. You make sure it's clear. Religion is one thing, and your workplace is what? Different story. If you want to talk about religion, ask about religion, then you're more than welcome. Wallahu alam. Further.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Is it permissible to speak during the other?
يجوز بعض العلماء يقول يجب رد المؤذن وبعضهم يقول سنة، لكن حتى مع هذا يمكن تتكلم وترد، والله أعلم. خلاص شيخ حسن حان وقت الصلاة
نصلي إن شاء الله لأنه
طيب أبشر ولا يهمك
المسجد ليت تسيري 50 مرة هكذا
ما يهمك ما تحتاج
إن شاء الله.
أبدا.